Alright, hello. Hey gang, how's it going? We're back, another episode of Oliver Makes a Game. Not a month-long hiatus this time between episodes. Just a day. I had to do some other stuff yesterday, planning for a trip. So I was kind of busy doing all of that, getting some shit for that set up. Anyway, other updates. Over the last like week, so I'm in the basement, right? It's like my room, and then you can go out, and there's a bathroom across the way. And over the last week, there's just been like a cricket that's just been moving back and forth between my room and the bathroom, but only when I'm not in the room. I'm not making this up, or like not when I'm looking at him. Like I'll like walk over and I'll look at him, and he will not move. Just in stock still, it doesn't matter how close I get. But as soon as I like leave the room to go do something else, come back, like 5 minutes later, he's gone, and it just keeps bouncing around. He was sitting over the toilet earlier today, but he's gone again. I don't know where he's went. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't make any noise. He does not move if I'm looking at him. He's like a weeping angel cricket. So we're gonna see how this progresses. We'll keep you updated. But that's about it. No big updates this time around. But yeah, so last episode, we did a big old mock-up of the run. We went through a bunch of different slides, which I actually have paint pulled up already. Smart man, me. Let's open. Ignore my desktop. Here we go. Yeah, so that's what it looks like when all the layers are turned on at once. Lamau. Yeah, so I just go through and turn off all the layers. Oop. There's probably a quick way to do this, but who cares? But yeah, so we went through like different screens that we could go through, character selection, what dungeon selection might look like, did a little mock, went through a couple rooms, drew up some mocks for what the screen would look like, uh, combat, etc., etc. You know, you were there probably. Yeah, so we went through that, feeling pretty good about how the game is gonna flow, about how the gameplay is gonna work. I think we've got that pretty settled, which means now we need to actually. I'm gonna turn off Steam fucking things while I'm doing this. Um, Now we kind of have to actually like design some specifics, and in order to do that, I think we gotta talk about setting now. That's right, it's back. It's returning from the depths. Blah blah blah. That being said, I've kind of hinted and teased, I think, the last two episodes that I have an idea for a game name and a game setting, and I think it's now time to reveal that. So we're gonna do a new one. My idea, my big ticket thought for both the game name and the game setting, it's a package deal. Hear me out here. The dungeon, hold on, wait for it. Dimension. This is supposed to sync up a lot better. Dungeon dimension. Explosions. Whoa. What the fuck does that mean, Oliver? Good question. Let me break it down for you. Right. So, the theme that we work on, right, is that this dungeon that we're exploring, right, or these dungeons, plural, that we're exploring, it's this actual big dimension that like or something this like big pocket dimension that I don't know some evil wizard or some shit like put together that combines all these different dungeons from different worlds and stuck them all together, and now heroes from across these different worlds journey in to like get treasure and do shit and to try and conquer the dungeon dimension, which means we're not actually limited to a specific setting. We can instead pull things from like any kind of setting or genre or like idea that we want. So when we're designing these dungeons or designing these monsters or these like character classes, we're not just limited to like, oh, standard fantasy thing or like standard sci-fi thing. We can do a bunch of different stuff. Really cool, right? Is this a lazy cop out way to not have to do a specific theme and let me do whatever the hell I want? Yes. Do I care? Absolutely not. We're doing the dungeon dimension. Welcome to the dungeon dimension, motherfuckers. We've got a name. Let's scroll over the top. Duh. Title. Dungeon. Dimension. Dimension. Bold that shit. Look at that. Dungeon dimension. Fuck yeah. So yeah, dungeon dimension. That's kind of the idea for the setting, and that so defining the setting as not really having a setting, so that way you can just design fun dungeons and cool characters and shit, and not be bogged down too much by trying to make it fit into a specific thing, which I think will be nice. Um, yeah. Speaking of, like we I think are gonna design and try this episode to develop some sort of first class or player character that you can play. So let's push this back again. Actually, I guess I can delete this now. I'll save this. We'll do dungeon ideas. Rename this as dungeon ideas. And then maybe I'll come back to this for a different game. I mean, I feel like making another Resident Evil game in the future, probably after Hayden convinces me to do it at some point. But not today, baby. Today, we're in the dungeon dimension. It's a cool name, right? Like I've been thinking on this I've had that in the back of my head for a month now. Dungeon dimension. It's got alliteration, it's snappy, it's peppy. I don't think it exists as a different thing. I googled it before. Dimension. It's a Minecraft mod. Oh, it's a Discworld thing. Dungeon dimension. What? I don't know anything about Discworld. What the fuck are you? Ugh, fuck. Okay, apparent drunken. What the hell? What is going on in Discworld, bro? Anyway, okay, apparently it's like a Minecraft thing and also kind of a Discworld thing. But if I put the in front of it, the dungeon dimension, then I think it's immune to copyright. But yeah, so the dungeon dimension, dungeon dimensions, etc., etc. Yeah, we're doing cool shit. So now let's make a character. Yeah, character ideas. Or like class ideas. I don't know how I want to define these. So general stuff. Put this. Yeah, we're back to Google Docs. Spent all of last episode in Paint. I mean, we might go back to Paint for this episode. We'll see. I mean, more so than we did. So general stuff. So not limited by themes. By general. By like world theme. Due to setting nature. I want to have identifiable archetypes, but not generic stuff. So like, I want to have like this first character that I want to make is like I want to have like a warrior archetype, right? Like a melee fighter, but I don't want it to just be like like I don't want it to just be boring, like sword and board, um, generic knight. Like we can do a knight, we can do sword and board, but I want to do something with that. If that makes sense. Um, every character I think should have some kind of unique mechanic or two. And have some sort of mechanic for both combat and exploration. Stand out. Mechanic. This sentence looks weird, but anyway. Yeah. So this first character, character one, character one, character one. Um, the warrior is the temp name for right now. So starting hero means has to appear simpler than the others. Back to the drawer. So like by base, like they're gonna have access to like hitting things, blocking things, general exploration stuff. Like by base, they interact with things on a very simple level in order to get the player familiarized with the game elements. However, I think they can still have a lot of stuff to build off of once you kind of get the game figured out. You know, like a easy to learn, hard to master kind of character. I think could be good for this guy. Um, so uh, what the fuck was that? A noise outside my window. Let's start. So the way this is kind of written, the way I've kind of written this, I'm thinking of this now, kind of almost makes me think like a character that can kind of upgrade themselves. Or like, I'm trying to think. I feel like it would be a good idea to let him interact, have more of an interaction with gear than maybe some of the other characters. So that way you get in. I don't know. What did I know he appeared. But I still have the. Open. No. There we go. I think I can remake Dungeon Dimension pretty easily. I'm pulling up the Warrior title card. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I didn't do much for him, did I? Yeah, that's kind of it, huh? Okay. So, hmm. What's this guy's gimmick? And what does he do that kind of sets him apart mechanically? Like I'm trying to think of other kind of generalists. So the Ironclad from Slay the Spire, obviously his thing is he's a starter class, focuses on doing big damage hits, a lot of armor gain, to start off simply, but then he also plays around with like exhausting cards, which once a card is exhausted, you can only use it for that combat. Like it's like a one-time use thing, or like you can exhaust other cards to do things. He plays around with generating like dud cards for your deck and doing stuff like that. So he's got a self-damage archetype, shit like that. Trying to think of warrior stuff from other games that could be interesting. Hmm. There is also the idea that you have multiple starting characters that you can select from. Like you're not just limited to one. Because I'm thinking in kind of the Slay the Spire mindset where you start with the Ironclad and then you unlock the other three characters as you play through the game. But potentially, you start with I don't know, let's say three characters, and then maybe you unlock more later. Um, but that could potentially be better, especially if we are doing the dungeon dimension. Because I don't want to have just like one character starting out, and so people think like, oh, that's like I don't want to have like a generic like fantasy warrior and everyone, and so you build the game, you're like, oh, this is like a fantasy game, and then the next character is like a big fucking robot, right? It's like, oh, this is a sci-fi game. Like, what's going on? So it might be worth having multiple heroes um, unlocked at the start, so that way, thinking that way, like players are able to experiment a little bit more, and they're not tricked into thinking that the theme is different than it is. It also gives more room to play with at the start, which I think could be fine. The only worry about that is like overwhelming them with info off the rip. So potentially you do like a tutorial when you start the game the first time. There's like a tutorial thing where you're locked in as one character and you're dropped in immediately, and there's no like selection or anything. And then after you do that first kind of mini run, then you go to the character selection for real. Something like that maybe. I don't know. Hmm. Well, okay. Let's go. Um, Archetype ideas. Type ideas. Warrior, obviously. So kind of weapon focused, armor, armor tank, barbarian. Uh, huh. Warrior. Obviously, like wizard is a big one. You got like your rogues. I think paladin. I would kind of put paladin in the same thing as warrior. I feel like. Would I? Mm-mm. Summoner. I don't know why I put rogue specifically as plural. There are other like D&D archetypes, or like fantasy, and just any archetype. Um, Rogues, wizards, summoners, warriors. I guess like I will put support as like a kind of archetype. I'm moving over into MOBAs, or or Divinity. Divinity is also like a good one, I think. Um, Enchanter. I guess like because wizard's very broad. Okay, so actually, what I'm gonna do. Okay, so warrior, paladin, barbarian, 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 ranger to an extent. I guess actually like nature class. Like summoner. Yeah, I guess summoner is actually like kind of can be a lot of things, huh? Like fireball, fireball, enchanter, um, necromancer. I guess that's kind of in the summoner role. Weird. I'm doing a very bad job setting this up. I need a better way to do this. Um, Fireball. Huh. I think the issue is I'm thinking too like I'm getting caught up in my own narrow worldview, and I need to expand my mind in order to truly appreciate the breadth that life has to offer. Was that good? How's that? But yeah. Hmm. And maybe we move away from this, and I just think of like I feel like because I was saying, what if we just think of like ideas for characters that are cool? I feel like that would be harder. Like I think it's easier to start with like a simple frame like this. I think really what I need to do is I just need to pick something that I think is cool and then workshop it. Like I think I just need to pick like just say paladin. Like I think paladins are cool, which is a true statement. I do think paladins are cool. And then just figure out how to make a paladin that is like interesting. I think maybe that's what I need to do. I think that's not a bad idea actually. Idea. Hold on. This is so 1.5. Uh, Palbarian. Period. Yeah, that works. Okay, hear me out here. Okay, so what if we play with the idea? Because paladins traditionally very heavily armored, like big, tanky guys. Barbarians also kind of tanky, but generally more like unarmored, like lightly armored, like leather, trousers and shit. But still very angry. He hit hard. Both like to hit hard. Hold on. Okay, new. Okay, paladin. I'm not gonna draw. There's no point in me drawing. Right? But like they serve similar roles, but they do it in different ways. What if we combine that? And what if we combine it through the gear system, where we've talked about like gear adds different cards to your deck. What if a lack of gear also can add different cards to your deck based on a passive ability that this guy has? So like passively adds cards to deck based on how up some kind of something like some kind of like rage meter versus like a tank ability. Or maybe it's like based on the amount. Maybe it's just like it's a call. Maybe okay. Editing the idea. Alternatively, alternative. It's one. It's like some of your starting like part of your starting deck. Changes based on amount. Right? So you can choose to go. So like let's say at the beginning, so let's say with the warrior, right? You have 5 blocks, 5 attacks, and then you have 2 copies of this other card. Um, that just by base, if it's even, if the amount of attacks and blocks in your deck are even, it I don't know, fucking just says simple gain does 5 damage and gains you 5 block. Look at this both. But if you have more attacks than blocks in your deck, then it shifts to aggro mode, and so it just does 10 damage. But if you have more blocks than attacks in your deck, then it shifts over and becomes gain 10 armor instead of doing both, right? So it's a card that shifts based on the other gear you have and the other cards in your deck. That could be interesting. Hmm. 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 Thoughts? So you can either go more of a tanky strategy. Uh, yeah, so you can either tank up and get a lot of armor, putting a lot of block stuff in your deck, or you can focus more on weaponry, maybe have less armor on and do shit like that, and become more aggro. Trade-off. Obviously, I wouldn't make those cards just like as simple as I would. I would think of actually interesting things to do with those cards. But that could potentially be an idea, right? Hoo-hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo. Hmm. So that could work. I could kind of like that. Because I think that's a good way to, if this does end up being like the starter character, I think that is a good way to kind of introduce how the gear system can affect things, by making part of your deck actively tied in, well, more so than your deck already is tied into the gear system. Like make other parts of your deck be affected by it. I think would be cool. And it gives you an incentive, it actively incentivizes you to actually engage with the gear system to like tweak these, because we can make these cars potentially more powerful as a result of them being so variable. Um, hmm, Palavarian. I'm gonna do Palavarian. That's better. Hmm, yes, I think I like this. So, okay. Starts off even amount blocks, amount of text blocks. Hmm. Hmm. I'm trying to think how I want to like go through this in my head. Um, Damn, it's fucking hard. So I usually let other people do this. Damn, maybe I do just want to make a dungeon first. No, we're gonna make a class. I said I'm gonna make a class first. We're gonna figure this out. Hmm. You can't. I don't think this is picking up on the mic, but I'm like tapping my forehead with my fingers, trying to think really hard. Drink some water while I think. I'm stalling for time. Fuck. Amount of attacks and blocks. Okay. Fuck. Okay. I think it's an interesting idea. I just need to like think on it more. Because the primary issue I have with this, right, is that if it's only like two cards that are like your big wombo combos, as two issues actually. A, you might not always draw those cards when you need them, right? Three issues. A, you might not always draw the cards when you want to. B, potentially you might just like get unlucky with like gear that you draft and you might not be able like if you want to go a specific direction, like if you want to go damage focus but you only get like armor stuff. I guess that's kind of the point of roguelikes is sometimes you have to work with what you get. So maybe that's not an issue. Yeah, I guess that's not overly an issue. Alright, maybe two issues. What was the other issue I had? Ooh, I don't remember anymore. Fuck. I have some issues with this. Um, hmm. I have a box cutter in my hand. If you're hearing a clicking noise, I'm opening and closing it. I promise I'm not gonna accidentally stab myself. I'm pointing it firmly away from me. Um, Damn. Man, this character making things fucking hard, bro. I think I'm overthinking this a little bit, and I think this is at least this part I think is generally kind of fine as a starting point, and then as we kind of develop it, if we don't like it, we can workshop it a bit more. But I think, yeah, I think this will be that's the wrong button. Time recording. Okay, it's only been 30 minutes. Cool. But yeah, starts with even amount of attacks and blocks. Um, Final two cards are these changeable, are these changeable ones, which can do something. We can figure that out later. Um, And then exploration deck wise, um, I kind of liked the generalist thing we came up with last time. Like exploration wise, two. Because we said two unique cards, right, for exploration. Yeah. What is this? What is this thing? Thought there was dirt on my screen. I mean, there is kind of dirt on my screen. I need to clean my screen. Anyway, so two unique options. I do like the headbutt thing. Maybe the exploration card. Maybe one of the exploration cards changes too, based on the amount of stuff you have. That's interesting. Maybe so. Like maybe one card. So maybe like sometimes it's headbutt where like you bash the lock open and you open it and it open a lock, and then maybe sometimes it's an alternative. That's my only issue with that is yeah, kind of my main issue with that is then potentially you're depriving the player of a lockpick, which is really good. Is that bad though? I don't know. I guess I don't know how many chests are gonna be locked. I don't know how often they're gonna need lockpicks. Because I haven't thought of that yet. Because I'm really just like winging a lot of this shit. Hmm. Ah! Maybe I need to start polling other people for character ideas. Maybe that's. Put in the comments what you want your character, what you want a character to look like, and how they should play it, and give me the exact details for all of the cards in their deck that I can steal. No. Hmm. I didn't think this was going to be this hard. I should have known it was, but I didn't think it would be. You can tell I've gone off the rails because I'm beatboxing. Okay, well maybe let's. I want to look at a different character idea, maybe. This monk is also an option. Monk. There are other like warrior archetypes. Samurai. Samurai. Like knight, I kind of mentioned earlier. Um. Hmm. You're looking at fantasy ideas. Let me think of other like non like a greaser. Like a yeah, like I gotta think. I literally opened with our setting is not limited to just fantasy, and I'm only naming fantasy style archetypes. T yeah, like a kind of mobster greaser kind of guy. What else? I'm trying to think sci-fi. I'm always bad at sci-fi stuff. It's robot. Robot boxer. I'm thinking specifically Real Steel, which is a movie I still have not seen. But I know Hayden is going to be really excited about the Real Steel reference. Um, hmm. I think it could just be boxer. It doesn't necessarily have to be robot boxer, but I'll keep robot boxer in. It's actually not a Real Steel reference. It's a Deadlock reference to the character Bebop. Shout out to I think just me. Bebop is cool. I like him. Anyway, Uh, other shit. Other ideas. Other ideas. Other ideas. Other ideas. Something. 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 I'm actually just gonna leave this in the box because any of these could be a robot. Sorry, Hayden. Fuck. Um. hmm. Sci-fi. 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 What happens in sci-fi worlds? What does Dune have? Does Dune have any warrior archetypes? I guess like they're all kind of warriors. Jedi. I'm not putting a fucking Jedi in this game. I refuse on principle. Um, I feel like you could make any of these sci-fi also by just like slapping like robot bits on them, huh? Like robot or like space magic, some shit. Um, yeah, I don't know. Sci-fi. What the fuck is sci-fi? Space guy. I don't know. Alright. Hmm. Yeah. I think any of these other characters would be easier because I'm wondering if I'm trapping myself in a box by trying to design the starter character first. And maybe it genuinely would be easier to just design another character. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't think this is. I think this is the right idea. I just need to flesh it out a bit more, and I don't know how to do that. So it's always good. This is why making stuff by yourself is really hard. Because it's really nice to have other people to bounce ideas off of. Unfortunately, it's just me in my room talking to myself. And as good a conversationalist as I am, I unfortunately only have one brain. The experiment did not pan out. Those who know, know. I got my box cutter back, man. Damn. God damn it. Again, I think another issue is like this would be a lot easier to visualize if I had any visualization. And I don't just mean my fucking paint drawings, bro. Uh, maybe I just need to open up Unity and start programming shit, and then go from there. Maybe that's the solution to this. And just like do basic stuff, like get a lot of the basic elements set up in Unity, and then we can start trying to figure out specifics. Maybe I've got it backwards. Because I was like, oh, I need something to program to. I need a character fleshed out so I can put it in Unity, so I have something for Unity. But maybe I am Mr. Graybox. Nobody calls me that. Um, maybe that is the thing. I just have to boot up Unity, which is a scary thought, but it might be the play. Or Unreal. I'm probably gonna do Unity just because it takes up less room on my computer. Um, and it's also less like taxing on every computer. All right, I might have to call this episode here. I don't think we're getting any work done. I'm gonna chew on it. I generally don't like. I'm probably not gonna upload over the weekend. So like chilling out on the weekends. But I'm gonna try and think about this. I want to see if anything pops in my brain for this, and then figure out either next time we'll either work on dungeon stuff or maybe we'll have Unity open. We'll see. But yeah, for right now, probably a shorter episode today. Apologies. I am kind of stumped on this though. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We figured out everything else. We've gone through roadblocks. We'll get through this one. Maybe as soon as I turn off the recording, I'll like think of it. It'll like appear in my brain, and I'll write it down, and I'll be ready for next time. I don't know. But until then, see you around. Thanks for stopping by. Get the fuck out of here.